is something wrong with a black man?
I don't think it's anything wrong with the black man per se. I think it's a community issue. I think it's the issue that we don't value each other. And I think that some stuff is strategic. So like, for instance, here in the U.S., I think that once...
Wow. Freeman.
Yes.
Guys, welcome to another episode.
Welcome, welcome.
Sherita Freeman. So Freeman,
Yes.
is it a slave name or what is it? Is it?
So specifically with my line of Freemans,
Yeah.
I'm like the 6th generation. So my great grandfather, when he came over and when he did gain his freedom, he didn't want to take his master's last name.
Okay.
So he chose to take Freeman because he was a free man. And so
Okay.
that's how my line of Freemans began.
All right.
So no, I don't have a slave last name.
So, because I hear that a lot of people here have a name that is actually
Their master's.
their master's name.
Their master's surname.
Yeah. And people have decided to keep the names, most of them?
Most of them did, and I think it came from a lot of the slaves that originally were here. I think as the years went on, they lost their culture. And so that was the only thing that they knew, that kind of like backhand, like, oh, you're good to me because I work for you, or you allow me to work for you. So a lot of them, I think, when they separated, they just took that name because that's the only thing that they knew.
Yeah. Free. Wow. That's a powerful name.
Yeah, so my poet name is Free. I go by Free the Poet, and just kind of that thing, the being liberated, the freedom to express oneself. So that's what I do. I'm
Also a mother.
I'm a mother. I consider myself a mom entrepreneur. My daughter has her own business.
Yeah.
So at 7, she jump started her business. Her love for bracelets became a business.
Okay.
Kind of when we had the whole George Floyd thing, I had to break down to her
Okay.
why people were protesting, why there were certain riots. And as I went to some protests, she made bracelets that said Black Lives Matter.
Yes.
She wanted me to give them out. So that's how she kind of got jump started. And, you know, she's come a long way. We have nice bracelets now, you know, not just with beads and names. And we take custom orders, okay? It's Mads, Dreams, and Things. Every thing, the last, instead of it being an S, it's a Z. So we've been able to do that and kind of flourish with that. I also am a podcaster. I work with this dope podcast called The Cool Spot NC, guys. It's with myself and my brother, Lamoy Decina, aka Mr. Cool Spot. I also, again, I do poetry. I work with a poetry group called Press Play POETZ. That's POETZ with a Z. It's out of Raleigh, NC. We've done poetry shows. We've put on plays over the last couple years in the Triangle.
What's the name of it again?
Press Play POETZ. That's POETZ with a Z.
Press Play POETZ.
Yes, with a Z instead of an S.
Okay.
Correct.
Big up.
Yes, and that's headed by the founder, D.S. Will, which is the head of the poetry department with the Raleigh Film Festival.
Okay.
And so I kind of got started seriously doing shows when I started working with Press Play. I did a couple of things with the group ran by Joseph Churchwell, Church the Poet. He does like the Black Poetry Theater and Foreplay NC. So I got my start doing poetry with them as well.
There's this African American lady who once came to Africa to my high school to teach, and she actually made me love poetry. I used to write poems since I was a kid, but then when she came, she introduced me to Maya Angelou.
Oh, yes.
And I started reading her poems, and eventually my poems started being like copy-paste from her, because my African people didn't know about Maya Angelou. And I'm crazy. So when I came here later on, I was like, this is plagiarism. Okay. Yeah. Because I used to do some poetry in Kenya, but if you look at my poems, some lines are actually Maya Angelou, nothing else.
Well, see, and that's when you want to give a respect to a poet, you can always say, you know, well, Maya Angelou said blah, blah, blah. Because sometimes, like, I'll put songs in my poetry, right? So sometimes I'll do, like, the singing and then the poetry, and I'll go back and forth. And so in that, I'll just literally, like, if I sing in a poem, I'll be like, well, Anita Baker said it best, blah, 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 blah. So that way, it's not plagiarism. It's showing respect.
I remember her line. It's kind of not clean, but I remember her line, we ate beans from yesterday's. I've put that on my poem, and I'm like, yeah, if I ever need to publish it, Maya Angelou will be right there giving me so much credit. And I knew if I do that in America, people will know. You will know. But in Kenya, I was entertaining my friends, because they don't know. And I was this young guy who wanted to look real good.
Cool.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah. Wow. Poetry is powerful. So what is it to you?
So poetry to me is freedom. It's giving my thoughts, my feelings, and those that are around me, their thoughts and feelings, section and a safe place, because I'm an empathetic person. So I kind of take on everybody's stuff. And so being able to let that emotion out in a productive manner.
Oh.
So it's freedom from your thoughts, from anything that's binding you.
Okay. And there's this poem. I've listened to 2 of your poems, actually, more than twice this week.
Oh, thank you.
And one of them is about me.
It's about a black man, a king.
Yeah. King.
Yeah.
So why that poem? Why that poem? How did you come up with it? Why did you decide?
Okay, so originally that poem was like a snippet. It was like a 3-sentence thing for National Poetry Month, which is in April. And I did it in 2018, and it was like a snippet. And originally, that was around the time I first started working with Press Play Poets, and the founder Diaz, he just loved it. He was like, "Man, Free, you should make that a whole poem." Like it was a concise 3 lines, and it was just very powerful. And so I ended up turning it into a poem, because I think that so many times we don't understand that we're royalty, and in royalty meaning that we're worthy of so much more than what we've been given or what we've been told. And so in understanding that, I think the black man, just like the black woman, they're very unprotected.
Okay.
And I think that we need to understand and give a safe place for black men, African men, we're all the same. We're a pot of gumbo. For us to be able to understand we have safe places, and to find safe places with one another. And so the poem is just kind of a call to black men to know their worth, to know that it's okay if you need to shed a tear. It's okay for me to support you, and for you to know that you're still worthy. So whether you want to say it in English, Creole, Spanish, it's just to let you know that you're worthy.
Oh, wow.
So.
Wow, that's awesome. So you said black men we are royalty.
Yes.
So what does that mean exactly?
I think that, when you trace our lineage back, that we came from kings and queens. And so we should handle ourselves accordingly. I think that we've been robbed of a lot of our culture. And with being robbed from our culture, we don't know we've taken a lot of European aspects on. And so I think that we have to get back to the root of, if I came from the line of kings and queens, then why should I act like I'm not? Why should I act as if I'm not enough, or if I just deserve scraps from a table? I don't deserve scraps. So I'm going to act accordingly and live in that royal essence. Like we should teach our children they're princesses and prince and princesses, and that they're worthy of everything. Not to hold your nose up at anybody, but to know your worth, so that if anybody tells you something different, you know the difference. My daughter knows every day. She does her affirmations. She starts getting overworked in schoolwork. I'm like, do your affirmations. I don't think you believe it yet. Do it again. You know what? Go to the bathroom, get yourself together, do your affirmations again, and I'll write them on the mirror. Like I'm to the point, my friend I talked to, do you want affirmations? You need some affirmations today? And because sometimes we need to tell ourselves, repetition is everything. So if we're repetitively telling ourselves that we're worthy, the things that we desire are realistic, they're within our grasp, the more we tell ourselves these things, the more we believe it. So then when it comes into fruition, we're not at a point of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it happened, but thankful and grateful that it occurred.
Yes. I try to do my affirmations too. I miss some days, but
look, when you have bad days, you're like, you know what? I'm supposed to be doing something. Where they at?
Talking of kingdoms and royalty, you made me do a little research about the Fulani people. Actually,
you did.
I did. And it happens that you come from the Fulani people. Do you know it's one of the most powerful kingdoms ever?
Oh, I didn't know that.
In Africa. And actually very widespread, such that it has other subgroups with different names. So the Fulani is like this big African community spread over a vast area of Central and Northern Africa. Actually, you also have some lineage from Egypt.
Ooh.
And you guys are warriors. So I'll send you some links.
Thank you.
Oh man, I've learned about the Fulani people when I was in school. We learned that in Kenya, but not that deep. And you guys, you will laugh when you hear about you.
Oh wow.
You will cry because you've been through crazy stuff. You will feel powerful. You'll be so proud, most of it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So, and the color of your skin is actually that lightish, alkaline kind of skin that they have. Because I was researching and they were defining and they were showing pictures. I was like, okay.
You're like, yep, that's free right there.
That's free right there. Yeah. So check it out. Go do some extra research.
I will.
Big kingdom.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's still there today. It's still known as a Fulani. I think in Nigeria area and other outskirts.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I told Sam that I had been trying to do some research, and then one of my friends, their husband, told me that I distinctively look like the Fulani tribe. So then I've been kind of doing like research in and out. So that's why Sam is saying he did this research and found out more stuff. So
True.
that's awesome.
So tell me about poetry, more about. Actually, let's talk about your podcast. With Lemore.
With my brother Lemore Desina.
My brother is Mkurugenzi today. Mkurugenzi director leo ni Lemore. I'm telling my Kenyan people.
Gotcha.
Mkurugenzi means honorable.
Ooh.
Director.
There we go.
Yeah.
So Lemore Desina, we do this podcast called The Cool Spot NC, and it is to be a safe place where millennials meet. So the ongoing thing that we like to say is that, when we grew up, we had people to look forward to. We had people to look at for direction. They were considered elders, right? And so as they have transitioned to being, superior elders, they're further along in life, it's time for us to pick up that slack, right? And we have to become what they were to us. So it's a place where now that we're in our 30s and, we're getting on out there, we want to be that place to bring safe space.
We're getting, me too. I'm becoming a fossil, man. A dinosaur.
Not a fossil. But we got enough skin in the game to finally advise somebody like, okay, that stuff we did when 18, that's not gonna work, y'all. Like this is what we're gonna do, and to give them a source of information, a place where they can come and get health information. They can learn about their thoughts, deepening their process of thinking, right? Going beyond just surface level, not just believing what somebody says, but doing the meat and potatoes, researching, finding out why. We love the question of why. Don't just give me an answer. Tell me why.
Yeah.
No, matter of fact, don't tell me. I'm gonna go research. But let's start to raise a question, right? And because if I have a question, then I have something I want to know. Then therefore, I'm encouraging myself to go research because now I need that answer. So many of us want a quick answer without doing the research, and that's where a lot of us go wrong because we just believe what somebody told us. So we're that cool spot where the millennials meet. Where they can find out information. So we're on Instagram and Facebook at The Cool Spot NC. We are also on Patreon. If you decide that you just want to donate to the cause, you can just do like $1 or $2 a month, or more, whatever. But we're at Patreon / The Cool Spot. We have a website, thecoolspot.com. And if you go there and you subscribe to us, we'll send you emails and let you know when we're going on, when we're going live, what we have going on. A subset of that is Picturesque Urban Clothing, where we now have like a clothing line. We're Picturesque, and we have these.
I saw him with a t-shirt the other day.
And so with the Picturesque line, it's a whole dope thought process behind it, but like it's signified with animals, right? So we have the frog, we have the parrot, and we have the conch shell and the crab. Is that right? Hermit crab, my bad. But hermit crabs have conch shells on them. There we go. It was all together. But sometimes when we look at animals, they react in such ways that are very detailed. The reason they do the things, their keen sense of everything that they do. If they have a keen sense of smell or their keen sense of view, the way they overview everything before they make a move. And so that's a dope, line, just to let you know. It's super dope.
I know.
And so it's gonna be more to come with that. Again, I'm a mom entrepreneur, so my daughter has her bead business, and yeah, we're finding our way in entrepreneurship because that's essential in our culture. We've lost that nudge to do it ourselves. So if we're gonna go pay somebody else to do it, and we have all the ability and agility in our body to do it, why not try?
Okay. So your first poem, the one not the king one now, there's the
domestic violence one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Tell us more about it.
Domestic violence month is in October, and I had a god sister that was killed by her kid's father when I think she might have been like 24, and so domestic violence is very close to me because I don't take what anybody says for granted. Like if somebody makes a threat, I think you should take it very seriously because you never know if they're playing, if they're just upset, or if they're serious and they have intention behind it.
There's this African pastor in Florida the other day.
The one that killed
the wife.
Yes, and her brother had came over there and he said it in front of the brother that he was going to kill her, and they didn't take it serious. They called the police, and then a couple of days later he killed her. That's sad. And that's the thing. I think that emotions go unchecked when you don't know who you are. When you don't know who you are and you don't know what you stand for. Okay. And so I think it all kind of loops back into each other. That poem, it's a lot to that poem. I don't necessarily think that just one or two lines will do it justice. So we're going to come back to it.
We'll come back
We're going to come back to it. I'm going to do the black man poem for y'all, though. I will do that poem later. Okay. But yeah, that it's a whole different mindset. And sorry guys, it makes me emotional. So that's why I didn't want to just, spit it. And y'all be like, oh, she's crying. I'm like, let's talk about these tears today, guys. Yeah. But I definitely will make sure that you all get to hear it. It's like it's the play up on being a diary entry. And with it being a diary entry, it's like somebody writing their diary. And that poem, it doesn't end their life, but they still have more life to live.
Yeah. So, now that you've touched about domestic violence, that's between men and women most of the time. Why do you think, especially, let me talk on behalf of our black community, why do we have so much of it? Why is so much divorce, so many single mothers? Even in Kenya right now, a large population is single mothers. Single moms. Most of them from very violent relationships. And is something wrong with the black man?
I don't think it's anything wrong with the black man per se. I think it's a community issue. I think it's the issue that we don't value each other. And I think that some stuff is strategic. So like, for instance, here in the U.S., I think that once we got to the 60s and they started and it might have happened a little bit before, when they started doing welfare, and the dad couldn't be in the home. No matter what you made, like the dad couldn't be in the home for you to get assistance. So it started pulling the dad away. Not even going back to slavery, how they would break the families apart, because they knew if they broke the family, if they broke it down to the bare essentials of the mom and the child, that the mom is going to humble herself to do what she needs to do for the kids. But if the dad was there, then they would rebel. So many times they would separate them to create division. And if the mom seemed like she was too strong or she wanted to buck, they would take her kids away. And to break her spirit. And so I think that unfortunately that's kind of transcended through decades. And so now it's become so easy for the black man to leave his family.
It's become an auto cycle.
Right. It's become, if I'm too stressed, I can't deal with this. I don't want to try anymore. I mean, and you have some older families where it's instilled the beauty of marriage. But then you have other families where it's not. I think that we have to think about how that psychological trauma triggered and created a lot of people that are alcoholics. So now they're enraged, and now they don't know what to do with that rage. They don't know how to center, how to focus, how to let it go. It was this interview with James Baldwin, and he was a poet as well. I can't remember the lady's name. It's Angela something. And I'm gonna make it make sense, I promise. What he said was that the black man pretty much can't fake it all day, right? If I fake it for the white man and I go in here and I do my job and I work hard and I bust my tail and I gotta fake this smile, when I get home I don't want to fake it. Right? So I feel like I should be able to let all my emotions off at home.
Okay.
Well, the mom, if I've worked or if I've taken care of the family, why can't I get a piece of you that's not angry? Why can't I get that smile? So if you can fake it for them, why can't you fake it a little bit for me? We can talk about what's wrong, but why not give me a piece of you that's joyful?
Is that why sometimes I've found myself over exaggerating issues when I'm with my girl? Whenever we have a little argument, I'm like, I tend to exaggerate it. I know in the back of my mind it's not so serious, but I tend to try and release extra emotions that maybe we're hiding.
Right, it's a build up, and I think that's when you get into the key points when you're building relationships. Like is it that serious? What's wrong? But I think it becomes a thing where we're not truly getting to know people or knowing how to communicate with people. So a lot of times we jump in relationships because maybe we've had sex and the sex was great, and so we're like, hey, we're gonna stay here for this. And so if we stop once sexual intercourse is created and we no longer try to build with that person, then we're only going to see it for that thing. Now it's dispensable. Now, okay, maybe we had a child together, but it's still dispensable because there's no meat and potatoes to make me want to stay. And so many times, this is my personal thing, okay? So many times women, we're created, right? When we grow up, we're giving baby dolls, we're giving the house, the little doll houses. So we're created to nurture, right? And our sons are told to sow their wild oats. Don't get serious too fast. It's more fish in the sea. So as they're sowing their wild oats, now, society and music and everything has influence. So they're like, oh, I'm going to treat you like this, or I'm going to say this, or I'm going to tell you what you want to hear. So now women have heard this, like, you're telling me what you want to hear. Now you're leaving me with babies, but you're not ready to settle down yet. And then it becomes that women, we're nurturing and mothering grown men. And then by the time they're in their upper 30s and they're ready to settle down, you've left a trail of maybe 20, 30 women that were broken because of you. And unless that next man that comes really cares to bridge the gap, then they're at a place of sometimes becoming bitter. And then a lot of black men are like, oh, I don't want to talk to black women because they're bitter, they're loud, they're angry. No, we're passionate and we're emotional. And it's okay, because just like it's okay for black men to be emotional and passionate, it's okay. We just have to learn how to deal with one another.
Instead of seeing it that way, we see it as something very evil.
Right. And it's just
look, she's screaming.
Right.
Something wrong with her.
Right.
This is really not
really. It could be nothing wrong, or it could have been that triggered her to 3 people ago, and maybe that person was abusive. So now she might become an aggressive because she feels like you're going to get to the point of hitting her, or there's so much trauma that we don't deal with. Black people a lot of times don't feel like it's okay to go to counseling. I'm an advocate for counseling. There's EAP programs, okay? They give you 5 visits for free, and if you come up with a different issue, you get 5 more visits. You can learn how to work it efficiently, okay? It is a service that is provided to you, but so many times we won't do it. Or if we have these single parent households, we don't want to talk to the kids about it. Like my daughter, she comes from a single parent household, and we talk about it. I've sent her to counseling, like let's get to the meat and potatoes. And she, I think she was 6, and she was just like, I'm angry. And I'm like, you're angry? You're 6. Why are you mad? But she was angry about it. Like, I don't want to talk about it. Like, I don't understand. But I've created a network of family. Like, she has her Uncle Lamoy. She has my actual brother that's in Ohio, Uncle Chris. She has these people that she can vent to. And I'm like, hey, guess what? This person was blessed with 2 dads. Or this person was blessed with this because my ex-boyfriend, he was around since she was 2. He was like, that's my baby. I don't care what anybody says. That's my child. And so though we're not together, he has stepped up in that role to still be a father to her. He's like, oh, you got tuition due? You need some help? All right, here you go. Here's tuition. And so we've created a partnership that is community based. That as a community, Black people have gotten away from. I can't say anything to your child walking because you're going to ask me, well, why are you talking to my child? Versus, hey, I see something is going on up here, and I need you not to be so loud because it's police up here and we don't want anything to happen. We're looking out for everyone.
It's
so
like raising a village, raising the kid.
Correct. And we've gotten away from that, and that's where we're going wrong. Right. So once we get away from that, then nobody cares. Like, oh, this is your husband. Oh, well, if he want to talk to me, I'm gonna talk to him too. And it's not a respect for the family or marriage. And I think that that's where we've gone wrong, not showing or loving or respecting. But I think that so many times when the black man is in the house, sometimes we allow traumas from the past to rid us of our happiness.
True.
And a lot of times he's going to be triggered too. So then he's not going to want to stay.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why we have to get back to knowing who we are.
Okay.
And we're royalty. So I love you, King. Like, okay, let's talk about it. Let's figure out how to vent. If it's something where we can't have a conversation right now, then let's say, hey, we're going to pick this back up in 2 hours, because you can go and vent and do what you need to do. Because if we don't, then we're going to end up with these issues.
True.
Or when it goes so smoothly, it's like, what's wrong? Why she understand like that? What she got going on? You know, it becomes something ain't right. It can't go that smooth.
I'm from a very violent background in my family. My mom and dad, they used to have it every week. Actually, we used to live in maybe a smaller house than this, way smaller, in an estate, you know, in the kind of almost ghetto-like.
Okay.
But we had a fence and a gate, just old fence and a gate made of steel, because, you know, to avoid thieves and all that. And at that time when I was little, there was a war in Bosnia, the Bosnian War. It was a big war. And my mom and dad, they used to have it, and until the neighbors will hear, and they'll run outside. My mom will chase my dad away, and the neighbors will see it. And sometimes I'll tell them, oh, guys, I'm so used to it. I'm like, you guys, please, you fight. I don't care if you fight, but don't go outside, because I have classmates who will see this. And they'll start fighting, and my dad will run out, because my dad will not want to. Things used to make them fight, and my mom is the one who was aggressive.
Okay.
But it was not her fault, because, you know, women are emotional. And my dad is not that person who would want to beat a woman, so he'll run. But he's the one who caused the problem, you know. But, you know, so I later realized that, you know, I used to think, oh, my mom is really crazy. But then later on, I was like, wow, my dad is the one who started this, you know. And they'll run out until it used to happen every Friday for some reason. And the
Who's daddy doing every Friday?
I know. And the kids one day just wrote a big word outside on our gate with white chalk, Bosnia, you know, because the war was... It's like there's a Vietnamese war here. Let's say there was a war in Vietnam, like the Iraq war. And then because people around you see you fighting a lot, they come paint your wall Iraq. Just yeah, you know, just to show this is a war zone.
Right. And don't come in here.
And kids will hang around every Friday sometimes
because they wanted to see.
It was so bad. So it kind of made me be very, very critical about marriage and avoid trying to even have a kid up to today. And now I hope I'm healed of that thing. But you see, it made me not want to get married for so long. So I ended having all these relationships that are not working, because I'm like, ooh, I see my mother's side there. This woman might beat me up, man. You know? And if I see that, I run. Sometimes I'll be like, whoa, I think I'm the one who does not deserve this lady. And then I run. Yeah.
We self-sabotage.
Yes, self-sabotage. And my sisters are also late in marriage too. And I'm like, wow, it truly actually comes from back then.
It becomes generational curses.
Wow.
The things that we see. Like, I came from the polar opposite. So I came from an amazing household. My dad was a pastor. My parents were together. My grandparents, they had 10 kids. Now my dad's father, he passed before I was born, but he left my grandmother. And I was able to learn about mental illness early because my grandmother never remarried. It was to the point, like after that, I think my dad was 12. She was never cognitively correct, but she was a teacher. So she was a teacher. She was teaching, but my dad at 12 years old was taking her bill book and paying all the bills because she just had checked out. She's like, I'm here to cook. I'm here to work. And I think that my dad he was a psychologist. and he also had worked for like POETZ Community College. He always taught us about being proud of who you are, understanding the family, and because he worked in the prisons for a long time, he was able to tell me everybody didn't have a crystal staircase life coming up. And I was able to see, like with him being a pastor too, all the people that came to them about broken marriages and about abuse and how the stuff happens, and how sometimes we poke the bear. Women sometimes we poke the bear.
Yeah,
we're like, oh, you're not gonna do it. Like my dad, I remember he told me early in life, he was just like, Sherita, you go out here, you get in a relationship. If it ever turns abusive, come home. Okay? I'm not gonna ask you no questions, come home. He said, because once you're in my house, these are my rules. And if they come here, that's something else, and I'm gonna take care of it. He said, but I can't step in another man's house and do something. So I need you to just come on home. And so I think so many people look for somebody to save them. And so they'll jump relationships like, this person's gonna save me. And the biggest thing someone told me is sometimes we tell somebody all of our traumas and then they become our trauma. Like we tell them so much of it that maybe they begin to rationalize the way you act to why this person did that, and now they become that person.
It's good to actually come together sometimes and just know that people are not perfect.
Yeah, we're not perfect.
I think that's a very powerful thing, Yeah, and man, I really feel bad that this whole thing has affected the kids so much, So tell me, what are your biggest challenges as a Black woman in North Carolina, in America?
My biggest challenges in America. Well, career-wise, I've been pretty successful. I am an office manager at a pharmaceutical company. And
all right.
So the last 2.5, 3 years have been amazing. But before that, I was stuck in this rigmarole of I'm working customer service job, customer service to customer service. Like I have a whole degree in education.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is, if I become a teacher and the starting pay is $35,000, I can't take care of my child with that. That's not enough money for me not to have to depend on the system or as a single parent.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody goes into having a child like, hey, I want to be a single parent, but it happens. Yeah. And so as it happens and you're learning and that other person has their other stuff. So you're two people that are no longer together are trying to heal individually so that they can benefit the child. And sometimes it takes longer than we intend to, right? And so the biggest thing career-wise is fighting for what you love and networking. It's something I never thought, but me having a positive relationship with someone when I was 18, it was a recruiter. We worked at Target together.
Yeah.
And I trained her, and she remembered me so much when I came to my current company. I was doing customer service, and she vouched for me. She was just like, hey, this is a person you need as your receptionist. And so she vouched for me to kind of keep the pay that I had. And I was able to work my butt off because I felt like, for one, I'm African American. For two, I have locks. Everybody's not okay with locks.
Not everybody.
I wore wigs when I first started. I was just like, I literally pulled my supervisor to the side.
Why would people not be okay with locks? They are standards
natural. They are the natural aspect. So many people aren't okay with. Just like California just passed a law, you can't be discriminated on against because of your hair.
Yeah.
So the fact we have to pass laws that it's okay for me to have my hair like this is insane.
It's insane.
But luckily
we can have wigs from a horse.
Right. We have a wig from a horse. We can have long hair. We can, look like Amanda, Shelley, and Karen and be perfectly fine and be successful. But when something doesn't look nice, or somebody feels like it doesn't look nice, kind of like why I don't call them dreads, because they're not dreadful. They look very nice, so they're locks. Unless you're like a Rastafarian or you have different cultural things where you call them dreads. Because the hair is in a dreaded state, but
well, actually, what's the meaning of that word dread?
Dreads from an aspect of, a lot of us call them locks because slave masters said they looked horrible. So they would say they look dreadful. So that's why we started calling them locks. Now, I want to say it's Rastafarianism. Dreads. They call them dreads based upon the way that the hair mats up. So it becomes like a dread. Like some of them will have one dread. But
ended up saying, they're dreadful.
Right. So that's why we call them locks. So like my 8-year-old, she's just like, my hair's locks, but thank you, auntie, uncle. She's like, can I educate them? I'm like, go ahead. So it becomes a point where a lot of times,
just educated.
Yeah, and a lot of times, business wise, they don't know, right?
Yeah.
And so as we work to excel in corporate America, it becomes a point where we have to not always take things so serious, but still fight for what you want. So when I was in that receptionist position, I knew, yes, I want more than this, but I was so grateful that a relationship I had from 12 years ago, warranted me somebody to vouch for me to be here, right? But not only that, I started getting a lot of Caucasian people. They started looking at my earrings. Ooh, Sherita, what earrings do you have in today?
Actually, I love those.
Right. Thank you. They're like, oh, what earrings? Are those heavy? And I had to realize it wasn't like some people would be offended, like, well, why are they asking those questions? But I understood they didn't understand our culture. Yeah. And I understood with that, too, I might be the only black person they come in contact with. Because now, at this point, I'm dealing with execs and upper leadership. Yeah. So I'm like, oh, no, it's not how you feel it. And I remember it was one lady, and some people are not going to agree with this, but I made her touch my hair. Because she would always talk about she loved my locks. And I was like, touch it. And she was a white lady. And she was like, no. And I was like, do it. It's okay. It's not taboo. I'm the same person. Our hair is just different. And it was just like, oh, it doesn't feel how I thought it would feel. But I think that sometimes people don't understand our culture because they're scared of it. So they only can appreciate what they see from afar. Where they can see in a video, oh, okay, I like that. Because that's culturally okay.
I almost went there where we are supposed to go next time. But
I know. We're going to stop. But because we have more interviews to come. We're going to interview Sam on the Cool Spot. And we'll be talking about some of those cultural things. But yeah, so I just and I fought to be where I was. And luckily I have a supervisor that's younger. So she's not too many years older than me. So she was game for pushing me to work, like whether it be going to legal, going to training, but pushing me not to be stagnant and finding a company that's their mission. Like luckily my company, when I first started, it was like 500 people. Now we're probably at about 3,000 people. And this is in like 2-3 years. So we've had exponential growth, but the company was small enough where everybody can make an impact.
Wow.
So like even some of the clients know my daughter. They're like, when's Madison coming back? Because she used to be able to come to work.
Wow.
So I think career wise is one of the biggest things for a lot of us is we get stuck in a job. We get stuck with just getting customer service jobs and not knowing a direction to go.
Wow.
So becoming content. Like I don't want to be content. Like I was talking to Lamoy about this the other day. I don't want to be stuck.
You don't want to
like
be
if
stuck.
I feel too comfortable, maybe something's not okay. Let me figure out something else so that I can keep pushing myself further.
Yeah, you have to. You have to keep moving.
Right.
If you don't move, you get rusted.
Correct. You know what? So the biggest thing is myself. Not standing in my own way. Because I'm not going to allow someone else to stifle me.
Yeah. Okay. The biggest, repeat that again.
The biggest thing that I have to worry about is me standing in my own way.
On your own way.
Because I'm not going to let anybody else stifle me.
Wow. Can
respectfully.
you elaborate that some more?
A lot of times we will self-sabotage, whether it's, business relationships, self-relationships. We might feel like we don't deserve that promotion, or if we don't get it, we get upset, right? Like I done got turned down for the same job like 3 times now, guys. And I keep going for it. And I had to realize that just because you get a no, it doesn't mean a no isn't always permanent, right? A no can change. And when you get to the point where people that might be interviewing you are telling you a no right now doesn't mean a no forever. It means I'm waiting till your right time. So sometimes we have to realize that we're in a holding spot, right? We're being seasoned. So we're gathering and learning and acquiring new skills so that we can grow. Wow. And so I think that sometimes we get restless, right? We get restless when we're not getting this promotion. I ain't gonna apply for it no more. No. You're gonna get tired of me. I'm gonna keep applying until you're like, you know what? This is yours. Thank you. Give it here. Never give up, because I don't know. Like I think it was something else. I was telling Lamoy, and I was like, I'm just kind of over this. And he brought it back to my attention. Well, I feel like you were giving up on it, and then look how things come full circle. So sometimes we have to not focus so much on the want, but sometimes do self-reflecting. What can I do to prepare myself for when I get there? Yeah.
So you mentioned, let's say this is the second last question.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like we have so much. Oh man, we'll be meeting each other so many times. Between the podcast and here.
Yes.
Oh, watu wangu. Tutakuaga tu hapa. Watu wangu. You just don't know what I told them. It's just funny. I'm being funny. I'm just being funny in an African way.
In an African way?
Yeah.
Y'all translate for me, okay? Y'all let me know.
You talked about affirmation.
Affirmations. Mm-hmm.
Tell us more about it.
Okay, so affirmations are things that you tell yourself that are good things. So for instance, like my birthday was like 2 months ago. So I had wrote on my mirror, FYI, if you don't know, you can use the expo mark on the mirror and erase it. So you can put affirmations, you can put whatever words up there that you want to. So like I had literally put welcome 32 and I was just like, you know, I am happy, I'm not complacent, I'm continually growing, I'm pushing. You know, the things that you don't always tell yourself every time, like I'm beautiful, I deserve the things that are coming to me. I work hard for all the things that I have. I'm intelligent. I'm constantly growing. I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
Because so many times we search for perfection in ourselves, and when it doesn't happen, then we can be toxic to ourselves and go into things that we know that are not good for us.
Okay.
And so I'm really good about that. Like my daughter, her affirmations are, I'm beautiful, I'm intelligent, I'm smart, I'm kind, I can learn, I can do anything except fail, and I'm a child of God.
That's
so
powerful.
that every day she on the way to school hit those affirmations, and it's to the point she teaches her 3 and 4 year old cousin to do them. Like, come on, let's do affirmations, and I don't have to tell her.
So you kind of mentioned your age there. Are you? I don't know. Sometimes I'm scared of my age, especially once you hit mid-30s, and now you start approaching 40. Get scared. I get scared sometimes. I'm like, I don't have whatever I wanted to have.
Right.
I wanted. I'm renting this house.
It's a gorgeous house, by the way.
But I see I don't have one.
Right.
But 10 years ago, I was seeing myself as owning this whole estate. But it's not there.
Right.
And maybe I've seen the mistakes I've done. Maybe I have a piece of land or two, maybe in Africa. But it's nothing compared to what I was
expecting.
Yeah. And here we are, or here I am, maybe approaching 40. And I'm like, wow. The life expectancy in America is, okay, maybe in the 80s now.
You're like, I'm halfway there.
Yeah. Well, do you get scared by the way the time is moving?
I do.
And death, especially as a poet?
Yes. I definitely am cautious, and it used to scare me, right? But anxiety is something I deal with. So I've tried to naturally work through it. And so I had to get to the point where I'm just like, I can't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow's gonna worry about itself. Let me take care of today. Now I can forward think and say, hey, I want to do these things. But I think the biggest thing someone told me is that most people that are successful don't hit that success till they're in their 40s, their 50s. And we are in a microwave generation. So we want it now. I want that success right now. Give it to me now. But then I had to think, like, do I want a house payment right now? Because I rent as well. And I was just like, wait a minute. Do I have extra money if the water heater goes out? Do I have the money to fix the AC?
Heating system
right. Do I? Because nobody else gonna fix it. Do I have the money to? Right. Do I want to mow my own grass? Or do I have the money to cover these things? And so that gave me a better, I guess, a peace about that aspect. Like, it's gonna come when I have the ability to sustain it, right? I don't want to barely make it. I want to be able to sustain it. So once I'm able to sustain it, those things will be added to me. And I think it's your gift making room for you, right? And so it's a reason you don't have that yet. We don't know what we might be gifted with or what might happen next year that puts you on a separate plateau that you could have never imagined. And so with those things being said, I think that things happen in the time that they're supposed to.
So maybe do what you can do right now.
Right.
And avoid many.
Right. Find your small victories, right? Because so many times we look at that big victory that we want. Find the small ones and bask in it.
A lot of my age mates are super stressed up. A lot of them. They actually, some of them think they are losers because some of them had kids and a wife and now they have fallen back to being single. Actually, a lot of them. And some of them are living with their girls, with their women, but they're living as roommates for the sake of kids. And a small portion is really successful. The relationship is good. The kids are good. And sometimes I'm like, wow, Are we? Am I dividing these people into portions? Maybe they have their own success in their own way.
Yes and no. I think that sometimes when we are friends with people, we know, and sometimes they share their inner qualms, right? Their issues that they have. I have different sectors of friends, and so two or three of them that I talk to on a daily basis, those are my mom friends.
Okay.
And one is married, one has 3 boys, she's not married. Another one, she has 2 kids and she's not married. And we had to get to the point where we saw the victory. The joy is we're able to get the kids together every other week, and they love each other. They get that bond. So that family structure, yes, they don't have that dad that they want, but they have the love. So I had to take it apart too.
There are some cases like me. Let me give my own example, because I don't want to feel like I'm perfect. I don't have a kid. I've never married before, because of what I just told you earlier. And I'm like, wow, sometimes I'll look at the mirror, I'm like, dang, you're the biggest loser, man. You don't even have kids, man. Right now, at least my girl has a kid that
you help rear.
Take the kid as mine, which is good. But I'm like, dude, Sam, damn. I'm looking at Lemore because we are the same kind of there together.
Lemore got them babies.
Age-wise, I'm like, I'm like, dang, Sam. Yeah, man, you no kids?
But let me ask you a question.
No this?
So where are you placing your views at? Where are you getting these views that you had to do something about it? Right. But
every day.
But let me ask you a question. So some of these people that have kids are miserable because they don't have them. They didn't have them in a loving environment, or they're struggling because they have that child. And not saying it's the child's fault, but they're struggling because kids are expensive.
Yeah. And I like your question because every day I talk to a close friend, they have to remind me, dudes, marry your girl, man. You're falling back every day, almost every day.
So, and I
don't
think,
know, are they real friends?
I think that they can. Okay, well, how long have you and your girl been together?
With my girl, maybe about 2 years now.
2 years. Okay. Now, this is personal. It's just from a woman's perspective. You have to think, a lot of times we rush into these relationships, right? And then the same people that are telling you, oh, you're taking forever, they might be unhappy.
Yeah.
So you have to equate, like, yes, you say you have some traumas, you feel like you're over those now. Okay, where do you see the longevity of you all? If you feel like, okay, I could see this person being my wife, or these characteristics or things that I want in a wife are there, then that's something for you to say, okay, well, maybe I'm going to take these steps and let me see how to do it. It's important to have strong people around us that are doing things that we want. Like, I think it's important for married men to have friends that are married men, because then they can see how to act, they can see how to maneuver troubled waters, versus like somebody married having a lot of single friends, because then you feel like you're missing something, right? True. So it's important to do that, but so many times we rush, right? And we don't fully know the person. It takes a long time to get to know somebody. And then when you add a dynamic of them having a child, you know them as the person that's with you, you know them as a parent, you have to mesh that together. So I don't think it's anything wrong with it taking 3 to 4 years to marry someone, because you have to figure that out. Now, we know a lot of times on a spiritual aspect, it's like if your loins burn, then you're supposed to, how the quote go? If your loins burn, it's better to be married than to burn, or something like that. Burn, right. So yes, we understand that process. We do. But you want to make sure that once you make that commitment, that you're in it for the long haul. Not you did this and it's been pissing me off for 3 years and now I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. True. And so I think it's essential to understand your thought process. And is that where you are? Are you ready? Are you okay? And then a lot of times premarital counseling. Maybe you're at that point where it's like, okay, let's do some premarital counseling just to make sure ain't no underlying baggage that we're gonna bring into this that we haven't talked about. Because I think communication is key with everything. Yeah.
So do you think it's really crucial that being in the 30s and maybe even the 40s, that's crucial for people like us, And it's really, is it a deal, is it a make it or break it kind of an age, or how do you see it?
I think we're at an age that we've learned so much. Now we can't afford to just make mistakes. We're at an age where we're like, okay, if we're not equally yoked, we're not trying to make it equally yoked. Because society will say, well, make it work because it ain't nothing too much better out there. I think that we have to realize what are hard deal breakers, right? What's something that is a deal breaker versus something I just don't like? Can we get past that? Can we converse about it? You know what I'm saying? You might not like she put her cold feet on you. Is it really that big of a deal? Is it something to just be like, look, don't put them cold feet on me no more. I'm gonna get you some fuzzy socks. How about that? We're gonna get this heated blanket. Them feet ain't gonna be cold. But you know, we got to get to the meat and potatoes of what's a deal breaker and what isn't. And then as we get there, that'll help us maneuver to the steps. Does this person support my dreams? If you don't support my dreams, if you don't support my aspirations, if you feel like maybe what I do is a hobby and this is my love and my joy, then you're not investing enough in me. Okay? So are you investing in what it is that I'm invested in? Are you willing to help me see this through? And I think those are the things that we have to look at. If she's pouring into your vision the way you're pouring into it, and y'all are supportive, it might be time to consider that.
That's really powerful when both parties are really supporting each other.
When somebody can truly believe in what you believe, like you believe in it, right? Yeah. Then it is time to think about those things.
So last question.
Okay. I feel like it's turning into a relationship segment.
Relationship
with Free.
Actually, that's it was. We were supposed to talk about your poetry, which is good.
It's okay. I'm opinionated, guys.
Yeah. And so tell something to a lady or maybe a couple that they kind of have given up. They're living together, almost as roommates. What would you tell them? Get your freedom and move on. But you see, the kids, maybe they're together for the sake of the kids. It's really complex.
I think they probably should start with counseling. And I say that because so many times when we're at a point where we've given up and we're still staying together for kids feel it, kids know, and it's not always healthy for the kids either. I think that so many times it's underlining traumas that have nothing to do with the other person. And sometimes you have to deal with what you have going on. What's going on with me before I can fix what we have going on. And so many times, again, people jump into stuff and then they're trying to fix it while they're getting to know the person. And then I can't tell you what's wrong with me, or I might not know how to vocalize. Like, I've been that way. Me and my ex, we broke up. We lived together for a little bit, and I realized I was a horrible communicator. I felt like I like to talk all the time. I'm great, and I was horrible. Like, we have a great partnership now, co-parenting. You know what I'm saying? In the, I guess what wouldn't be somebody's ideal co-parenting situation, but we talk more as co-parents than we did when we were in a relationship. But it was me having to realize sometimes it is me. Sometimes I am contributing to the problem. So let me deal with what I have going on, because everybody generally feels like they're perfect, right? Unless I might have a couple flaws, but for the most part I'm okay. And so sometimes until we're ready to peel back the layers and say, okay, maybe I'm contributing to this. You know, what is it that I'm doing? Sometimes we need that space just to talk to somebody that's non-biased. Because your friends a lot of times don't go what you say.
Wow. And I love that your poetry is really actually, it has this framework that I'm seeing, that it's basically to build the man and the woman. Considering that I've listened to those 2 poems, they are all towards building the family, in a way. And, we started with your poems and we fell in this pit called relationships and goals. I think it's like always we have to fall in some pit once we do this. And we were trying to avoid that pit, but we will throw ourselves
we went to another one.
Yeah.
But it's important because that's a major thing in your 30s. You feel like, oh, I'm supposed to be married, I'm supposed to have kids. Ideally, it's supposed to be this way. We're supposed to be happily ever after. And life doesn't always throw us that opportunity.
Man.
And we have to figure out what we can be pleased with, what we're grateful for, and what we're still striving for to keep ourselves in check.
Yeah. Wow, man. Next time we'll bring Lemo and we talk this now. Man and a man, and see what.
That'll be a good build.
And you'll be right there listening.
Yep, the accountability. I'm gonna be like, accountability.
Yeah, and wow, guys, I know we can stay here for another 2 hours. We can't stay for too long, so we'll do another episode again and again. And also, I'll be sending out a link on the podcast once we do it.
Yes.
And all my Kenyan people, all my African people, please make sure you check that podcast out. Download it. Whatever you do it to listen to it, support it. Say the name again.
It is the Cool Spot NC. So you can find us on Instagram and Facebook on the Cool Spot NC. You can find our Patreon at the Cool Spot NC patreon.com/the Cool Spot NC. And also, I'm forgetting something. If you have any questions, just email us, thecoolspotnc@gmail.com. We'll be happy to answer any questions. Again, I am Free the Poet NC on Instagram and Facebook, and I'll be happy to answer your questions.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Sam. I'm so elated.
Yes, and this program is brought to you by the African Store in Greensboro, North Carolina. Sophie Mokua is the lady you get to when you want to buy earrings, African dresses, African everything.
I'm going to check her out.
The website is right here. Right there.
Up there?
That's a website right there. Yeah. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
You are a true queen.
Oh, thank
from
you.
The Fulani
thank you, King.
Thank you. And we are out.
See you later.
All right.